though I knew nothing about education in Afghanistan, and I have to say it gives me chills to tell you that I just knew I had to do this. I said to them, I want to help. I don't know how to help. I've worked with children all over the world, but not children in a really, as John Gilmore would say, a broken community. And so Zarguna said to me, I know how to do this. I have done Women's Today radio shows about the women in 34 provinces. And so we started Educate Girls Now, which I'm going to now tell you about.
Right.
So,
Marilyn, does everybody see the slides?
can you see the slides? If not, I can.
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this is all of the photos come from photos of our children in Afghanistan. And I want to thank our children for allowing us to share photos of themselves. There are some you'll never see who are in endangered areas, and also for our team who are in Afghanistan and have been so brave and taking care of our children. And I will tell you more about them. So can we go to the next one, Ryan? So we were founded in 2013 after the sharing of the movie Girl Rising. And for anybody who would like, at the end, I will share my email address, and you are welcome to see the portion on Afghanistan. And we are a nonprofit, and we provide 300 children in Kabul, Kunduz, Herat, and Mazar with education. And we take care of the entire family, but our focus is on girls' education. And this is because without food to feed a family, girls will not be educated. So we have had over 12 war widows who are part of our group. As we'll talk more about the challenges and the terrible plight that these women have. And I do want to say that out of our entire group of girls, none have dropped out. And we've had to negotiate when a child was taken by the Taliban. We've had to negotiate when a cousin wanted their niece to be married, and we were able to stop that. She was 13 years old. And our dedicated staff, they're all from the BBC, and we found that they are the most reliable and ethical people to work with, go from house to house. We have a male and a female, because it's very, very dangerous for a woman to go alone. And she and he together meet our families and talk to them and share with them and take care of them. And we provide them with $60 a month for food and education. And this has, again, been a great opportunity. And as I share the next part of the video, I want to just provide you with some data about education in Afghanistan, a daunting situation. And although I wish we were able to do the incredible methodology that John Gilmore has created for LEAP, at this point we're at a very, very primitive level, or where we're just trying to get the girls to the point where they're reading and writing. And so we'll be sharing with you some information. Okay. So we're ready. So Afghanistan has a long history of education. In the 1970s, women were actually part of the education team. During the Soviet ruling, they were actually significantly involved. Up to 50 to 70% were scientists, sociologists, and teachers. And this went fairly well until obviously there was a big change. So just to go back, in 1978, we had the first coup in Afghanistan, and that was a socialist party. This poor country has been racked with incredible challenges and various governments and wars. And then we had the Soviet Afghanistan war. And although that time was very challenging, women were valued as being part of the education program. Then in 1996, it was captured by the Islamic fundamentalist group as Taliban. And you will see in the charts I'll show you later, the decrease in education for women and even for young boys that took place during that time Women were not allowed to go to school. And then following the 9/11 attacks, when we intervened, there was a huge change, and we went from Taliban power to a new democracy. I just wanted to show this picture. This picture is the Paris of the Middle East at the time. I have young mothers who tell me that their mothers were able to work as they please.
Could someone mute themselves? There's background noise.
Okay, let's go to the next one, Ryan.
There you are, and then we'll have your face right outside. Right outside. Remind me your name.
Bobby, it's so good to see you again.
I know. How
Oh
have
my
you
God, I've missed
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
been?
someone needs to mute themselves. Hold on, let me see who this is.
All right, Bobby. She's gonna be your change.
Thank you.
It's
You're
Roberta. It's
Thank you.
Roberta.
Appreciate it. Nice to
Okay.
see you.
nice to see you. I hope
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I again, as I shared, these are photos of our families. This is a 28-year-old mother who has 7 children. And in Afghanistan, there is an ingrained gender inequality. Unfortunately, as we have heard, there is violence against women. There is a whole socioeconomic approach that does not include gender equality. And we have worked very, very hard with our women, especially when they have been in forced marriages, to try and empower them to gain a sense of their own autonomy in the middle of a situation which we have to respect and the culture that is there. And I do want to share that there are 34 provinces in Afghanistan, and each of them is ruled by a governor. And so there are very, very different approaches politically to this situation. Some provinces are more equitable. There are others that are very, very difficult to work with, and our girls are in danger. So one of the challenges that we have is that in a number of these provinces, there are only a very small percentage of teachers that are women. And often they have a very minimal education, and mothers in those provinces, not Kabul, will not send their children to school or cannot send their children to school if it is not a female teacher. Most of the information that I'm sharing is from UNICEF, UNESCO, and Barry Hughes from the Millennium Development Goals. And I should say that in this situation, we have challenges because we don't have an organized approach. Every province is different. This is a young mother in Kabul who has 7 children. She's 28 years old, so you can only imagine the situation that she's in. But often these mothers are forced into marriage at an early age. They don't even know they're being married. They're brought to a party, and then they're given to a man who is now their husband. And so we are working on the ingrained gender inequality that we see in Afghanistan. Okay, next. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the amazing empowerment of women through our program. First of all, we wanted to talk about the fact that women are more likely to support the education of their girls and their sons. We need both to happen. And in this situation, we are focused on achieving universal literacy. This is a huge, huge goal. But Afghanistan, it has, as you know, one of the lowest literacy rates. It's number 4 in the list below African countries. 3.7 million children are out of school. And as you can see, the inequality, I mean, unfortunately, all the children are out of school because we need boys educated as well as girls. And as we see, as they grow older, the number of girls that are educated becomes less and less as they are married off before the age of 18. And we see that this is an incredibly challenging situation. One of the things that we've worked on is that we are focused on our mothers ensuring that their children who are now home because of the coronavirus do 2 hours a day of schoolwork. And fortunately, we've been able to provide clean water to the families so that they can wash their hands. So we have a situation where literacy is essential, and our goal is to empower our mothers and our girls to ensure that literacy grows in these countries in a place that without intervention, and I would say support, it would be unlikely that we would see dramatic changes. Okay, next one. Well, I wanted to talk about the widows in Afghanistan. I would say that we have a percentage of 66% are widows. It's the most unfortunate situation. What has happened is a number of these women, most of them, are women of war wives of Afghanistan. These are women whose husbands have died in the war. There is a population of 2.5 million widows in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, they are considered bad omens, a teapot that's already been used, as it's been said. And they are really, really in a very difficult position. It's very hard for them to succeed. We have rescued women off the streets of Afghanistan who were starving because they refused to marry a relative of their family. And this picture is one of our women who is a war wife and who was, after her husband died, after the great loss of her own family, she now is considered to be less than a upstanding human being because she chose not to marry one of her brother-in-laws. And so we have worked very, very hard to ensure that these widows are given the opportunity to grow and change. I wanted to say the average income for a war widow in Afghanistan at most is $20 a month. And that is not enough to feed your children and send them to school and provide them with a home. So our focus and our methodology for this culturally unique area is to focus on empowering women and empowering girls. And as you will see, this has worked magnificently for us. Next one, Ryan. So I wanted to share a little bit, you may be wondering, how does it work? So what we do is we've discovered, and this was really truly the suggestion of Zarguna Kargar, who is our support person in the BBC. She's now moved to London. And she said, if you empower the mothers, if you give them a stipend every month and ensure that the money they receive is for food and clothing, in exchange for going to school, these women will ensure their children go to school. Because what has been holding them back is the lack of funding. If you have no money, school is a secondary thought. You need to feed your children. So we have worked with many, many families for whom this is the only and the sole source of support they have. And I'm proud to say, then I will say it again, that none of our girls have dropped out of school. So we have found that in Afghanistan, the methodology for empowerment is the mothers. So our team, our BBC journalists, we originally started with organizations in Afghanistan. I won't go into the details, but it was less than ethical. And so we chose to work with individuals devoted to children through the BBC who visit them monthly. And if they're outside of Kabul, they stay in touch with them by phone, and we are monitoring their well-being. And even during the winter, when, by the way, there is no school in Afghanistan, they are there to provide them with support for the colder months. We also provide them with psychological care, and we've started a program to empower mothers to be able to take charge of their families and to feel that they're worthwhile individuals. And for some of them, this has been the first time in their entire life where they have felt like they are worth something. And because they are now in charge of their funds, everybody respects them in a way that has never been seen before. And all of these children that you see in this photo, except for the little boy sitting on his mommy's lap, who is 4 years old, go to school. Next, Ryan. So one of the things I wanted to share is that when you provide children with an education and food, which is essential, food, clothing, shelter, families go to school. The only thing that's stopping them is food. Children beg to go to school. And when they cannot afford a school, as has happened in the past, they are often sold into marriage, which provides them at a high risk for violence and early childbirth and lack of economic growth. One of the things we've discovered that in addition to having 66% of our women are war wives, are war widows, the remaining husbands, of them, 82% are addicted to opium. This has been a huge challenge. And so we need to ensure that the funds that are received go directly to the mothers who will ensure their children are educated. We want to support the husbands. They don't have jobs. The opium addiction has gone from up to 2.5 million in Afghanistan. It's spreading to women and to young children. And often when babies are born, mothers who are working or weaving rugs give their children a little bit of opium on their lips to keep them quiet. And so we have been working with our mothers to empower them, to empower themselves and others not to be involved with opium, which is considered a little more than an aspirin in Afghanistan. And so we work with women who we know will ensure the money we give them will go towards education. And education, as we said here, prevents poverty. It increases a child's ability to have the opportunity to go to school and to make new opportunities in their lives to ensure that they have a career. And we'll share more about that in a minute. Onwards, Ryan. This is a beautiful quote, actually, from a young girl in Africa. And I just wanted to say that not only are we supportive of children in Africa, in Afghanistan, but we do work with children in Africa. Our main program is actually in Afghanistan, but we have been working in Kenya and Uganda as well. Smaller groups, we're well established in Afghanistan because of the support we receive. Okay, next. So I love this photo. Sorry, I've got to grab my papers. This is Rohina. She allowed us to use her name. And we believe that this is a mother who has had no education. And this is her darling little daughter in 2nd grade. And as you can see, the reason that they show us pictures with money is not because we want to see their money, we really don't. It's to ensure that the money that's being sent from our donors actually gets to the parents and that it's actually not used as bakshish or used as a way to gain funds for an organization. So now what we have is women who are in control of their education, of their children, and women who are empowered. So in a family, the money is given solely to the women. Our organization is run by a woman. And so that this is a model for how women can be empowered. The men know, and it's happened before, that if they get involved and try to take the money, the family will no longer be receiving these funds. And so it's very clear that the women now have a new role and a new sense of empowerment. And their daughters and their sons get to see them as a power maker in the family. And so it's also very true that women, because they've been, you'll see in the charts, have been less likely to be educated. They are determined for their girls and their boys to have an education. And I want to say, although we focus on empowering girls, we do believe that for the world to be a healthier place, all children need to be cared for and taken care of. And also we want to ensure that they experience equity and see their mothers in an empowered role. And so this darling mother, Narina, is here with her young daughter who's now in school. She actually started her education at 4 at home with her sister. Next. This picture I want to share with you was taken by my daughter when she was filming Girl Rising. It's a young girl in Afghanistan who is required to wear a burqa. And we felt that it was a very powerful picture. And I want to say that, as I shared earlier, none of our girls have been forced into child marriage. So out of 300 girls, none have been forced into child marriage. We've had to save a few from marriage, but with negotiation through our team, we've been able to ensure that the fathers will agree and the mothers that the children are better off in school. I consider this an important model in a country where child marriage is a predominant issue. Children are married as early as 11, 12 years old, and the percentage of children who are married before 18 is significant. It's over 60%. And so we've discovered that the key to preventing child marriage is ensuring that they have an education and they have food. This young girl, by the way, who was married at 11, has been rescued, and she's now in school, and we were able to help her. And so we've been able to ensure that a child, she was married at 11, had a child at 12. And so we were able to take her out of that situation and ensure that she now has an opportunity and is in school. Next. So one of the things, this is a lovely little family that we work with. I wanted to share this because when we first started working with them, this is their home. They had no shoes. We couldn't send them to school. Some of our most primary necessary needs, Maslow's hierarchy, they had no shoes, they had no clothes, they had no coats to wear. So before we could even prepare them to go to school, we had to ensure that they were taken care of and that they had shoes to wear and clothes. This is their home. And as you can see, it's very primitive. And what we had to do first, before we even began, before we even had the agreement of these mothers, was we had to build community trust. Community trust is essential because the perspective and the opinion of their community members was essential. And so we went to the villages and we talked about helping the families. We talked about building a sense of support for the and cultural acceptance of the building of the communities. And our team went monthly to meet with these families. And this was a family who began to, we began to provide them with support and clothing. And when people saw that these amazing, these children from this very impoverished family, which is a widowed, were given support and clothing, that maybe there are people outside of Afghanistan who care about them. And again, I want to say, we've heard this over and over from our families that we didn't know that anyone cared about us. And so now these children are in school, they do have shoes, and they do have coats to wear during the winter months. And the community trust has grown in a way that has been unexpected in terms of the support we've received and the number of families who would like to join our program. Next. So I wanted to share this family just to give you a sense of the cultural challenges. This is a family who lives in Mazar-e-Sharif. It's a very religious, Islamically religious part of the country. This mother wrote to us through her cousin. She had just been widowed at 24. She had no money, and she was worried that her children were going to be taken from her. We couldn't send her money. What we had to do instead was we had to deliver the food to her home. She was not allowed to go to the market because she was a woman. But as she grew in her empowerment, soon she said, I can go to the market by myself. And she began to buy her own food. And then just 3 weeks ago, she actually decided that she was ready to have her own bank account. And now her children have the experience of not only being educated, but also having their mother having her own bank account. And she's now capable of managing her food, her money, and her children's education. And when we first met her, we were a long ways away from that perspective. And that is really a model for the future. She's one of millions, but we're so proud of her, and we're so proud of her children and the opportunity that this created for her, which again gave us an opportunity to see what is possible. Next. So I want to give really this information is really, I want to give you a few graphs. There are more, and if you would like to email me, and I will give you my email address. It's such deep work, and he starts within the 1990s. But I'm going to share with you modeling from Barry Hughes from International Futures. And in these two examples, you will see the changes that are happening. And these are models of what is happening now and models of what will happen in the future. I want to say the gray represents children. We didn't really research their education as much as we got to 15 to 19. You'll see the green is primary. We're talking K through 8, K through 6. Yellow is high school, and blue is tertiary, high school or college. So we have the X axis, which goes horizontally. That includes the number of children. The Y includes the ages of individuals. And just so you can see, the gray represents children who are, before we're actually monitoring their education. Green is primary, yellow is secondary, blue is college. So this is where we are now. And red means there is no education. These children are not being educated. There are over 32.5 million individuals in Afghanistan, and we have 3.5 individuals who are not receiving an education. As you can see, if you look at the y-axis going down vertically, that most of the non-educated children are women. And you will also see that as we get older, as people get older until we get up until their later ages, there are points where there was no education, absolutely none. People were illiterate. And so we have mothers who are teaching children who are illiterate. And what we do is we begin with the very basics, which is 2 hours a day. They study at home during the coronavirus. As you look also at the green, you can see that boys more than girls are being provided with primary education, K through 6. And it comes to something like 700,000 to 400,000 for girls. And as we get older, we see that the boys have an opportunity to go to high school where the girls don't. And as we go on to tertiary, which is your bachelor's in education, girls are minimal, boys have maybe 50,000 out of a country of 32.5 million, girls maybe 10, and it goes up from there. And I want to say with great pride that we have 5 girls who are in college. We never expected this. We didn't anticipate it, but after they completed high school, they chose not to leave our program, but to go on to college. So when you look at the fact that there's only 10,000 girls being educated in college, I feel this is an amazing accomplishment and only the beginning of what is possible with empowering mothers and girls. I'm going to take you now to the, can you take us, Ryan, to the next slide? So this is,
oops, sorry.
We have more slides. We have slides, oops, we have to go back. We have slides for 2005, 2050. We have slides for the 1990s. But there's so many, and the depth of this information is so immense. And as you look at it, it's just staggering. But again, you can see there's a decrease in the number of children in the red who are receiving no education. This is what we hope for from the Sustainable Development Goals. This is not an actuality, but this is the opportunity that has been so beautifully modeled by Professor Barry Hughes. And I hope that we will see this come to actuality. Although I do want to say what you'll see, and so interesting, if you look in the gray, the number of infant mortalities actually, or children mortalities, increases as they get older in the gray areas. What you'll also notice is that there's an emergence of more individuals 15 to 19 receiving an education. And again, as we go on to the next level, the males or boys, which is the older group, have an opportunity for secondary education. Again, this is not college, and we're talking about older adults, but we're just beginning to see the hopes of secondary education and college. And what we're hoping, this is without our support, this is without the support of other groups who are modeling this opportunity. Imagine, out of 300 girls, we now have 5 in college. Just imagine what this would do if this human capital distribution was promulgated by mothers and daughters being supported to be educated, which I can assure you there's nothing they want more. So I would like to say at the end, I'll give you my email address. There's so much more information. It's a deep dive, but I do want to say, take a look at how many children, how many individuals had no education, and slowly it's emerging, but very slowly. This is a travesty, in my opinion. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, we're going to move forward. Now we're going to look at what is the opportunity for the future. Where is our hope? Where is the opportunity? I wish we could say we're working on methodology, because I love John Gilmore's work with LEAP schools. We haven't gotten there yet. What we're looking at is basic literacy. And so those programs are usually designed in the old English colonial program, but we have hope for the future. Next slide. So here's a little girl. She started at 4 years old, and she is our future. She's now reading and writing. And what we've discovered is that when girls are educated at a younger age, they actually ensure that their opportunity for jobs is increased, the chance that we can protect them from this kind of struggles that are so evident in our children who are not educated, in our mothers who had no opportunity, who can't even write their name. Excuse me, as I would just look at my notes. But what we do know is our girls are continuing. They don't stop after primary education. They go on to secondary education, and as now we've seen, they are now going to college. So what we see is it's all about opportunity. If you have opportunity, if you give people the chance, if you give mothers the chance to empower their girls, they want this more than anything. This is essential. Okay, I have one more slide, and then I'm going to just end because I know I'm coming to the end. One more slide.
Oops.
One more slide. So here's our key to success is literacy, women being empowered. We do want to tell you that we also provide our women with the opportunity to be in empowerment groups, and we've been working on that. And the chances of them, what we're looking for them is simple literacy and also empowerment. And with that, I would like to say that we have hope for the future. With 300 girls, we hope to expand. We focused on a small grassroots program, but we've done it to model before we grew bigger. One more. I want to share with you this most beautiful quote from a student. She lives in an area controlled by the Taliban. I can't give her name nor her location. She is actually teaching her friends at home. I was very worried about accepting her in the program, and I said, I'm so worried for your life. And she said, my life is always in danger. Once I was blind, but now I can read. And so we have continued to support girls in areas which are Taliban controlled, where there is no school, with the hope that one day they will be in school and they will continue their education. want to share with you in my next slide how you can reach me. Please feel free. I'm happy to share with you this PowerPoint. And also I would like to provide you with the name of our organization, educategirlsnow.org. We are really doing some of the most forefront work in this area, and it's just been staggering. But please stay in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. And again,
Thank you so much, Marilyn. Thank you very much. We're very touched by your extreme generosity to these girls. And it's been a wonderful experience through Afghanistan. But we need to move on just to get this Zoom conference in some kind of time that we promised people. Sheila Murray